My name is Kim Derko, and I started shooting in 1988, 89. I never set out to do this at all. I had no ambition to be a cinematographer. I was studying art history and color theory at Emily Carr College in Vancouver. I'd taken a little film course on the side, and in the photography division, they were throwing out these old, fabulous, junky, old still photo equipment, and I just saw them in the garbage, and I found a Morse G film reel tank for developing film yourself, and I thought, oh, this is groovy, I'll make a little art project. So I went and got a Muybridge book out of the library, photographed some horses running on a Super 8 piece of film, went to the Alpha Cine lab at the time in Vancouver, got little tiny bags of what the guy told me was the chemicals to mix my own fix and developer and everything, went back, made this cute little film, and it turned out pretty good. And the film instructor at Emily Carr said, you know, there's this program in Montreal at the National Film Board. So I got an apprenticeship program in Montreal, where I lived, and worked under sort of mentorship of an old cinematographer who was semi-retiring, Dennis Gilson, and worked at the studio. They had a dramatic studio there, so learned about lighting and was a camera assistant for a little while. Zoe Durst was there, and she was a huge inspiration to me. Just seeing her, you know, doing her work was fantastic. So I kind of just fell into it totally randomly. I think that my background in the arts is a big part of what pulls clients towards me, and then I've done a lot of work with arts, with music, with dance. Even my TV series stuff has been with dance. I love shooting all kinds of other things as well, but I think people see like my kind of arts background, and I'm very big on color. Color's kind of like my thing. As a cinematographer, I take someone else's story or someone else's concept, and I try to serve them to, as best I can, using all of my creative ideas that I can present to them, tell the story in the way that they desired their story to be told. But I simultaneously bring my own offerings and my own style and my own flourish to that story, and it's an excellent job. I love my job. If you're working on TV series, it's completely different than when you're working on a feature film. On a feature film, you have a much more artistic drive. On a TV series, you have a little bit more of the business side to deal with. So I'm a very practical person, and I can adapt well to the business side, and now we've got to get 14 pages a day, we've got 2 locations to get to, we've got to respect the actors while making it look good, but do it super fast. And then on a feature film, the focus is a little bit more specific to the art of cinematography and a little bit less business. So it depends which job you're doing. I also shot a lot of music videos when I was starting out, which was very artistic, quote unquote artistic. It was very freeing because you weren't dealing with the hierarchy of the television series and television business world. I see myself as a very practical navigator of whatever script, whatever writing I'm presented with, and I just have to adapt to make that work. I think my biggest struggles as a cinematographer were mostly my own personal self-doubt. I didn't have a kind of network of, like, as I see now, women tend to support each other much more than they did then, and there were less women when I was starting out. So you were trying to be politely navigating this very male domain. I think I burdened myself with a lot of doubt about my own abilities when I was starting out, and I think that's one thing that I hope has changed in the world, that younger women can feel more confident doing that. But self-doubt is probably my biggest struggle. When I was starting out, there were very few women cinematographers. Canadian women cinematographers that were my inspiration were Zoe Durst, Susan Troe, Joan Hutton, and Pauline Heaton. Those were the women that I knew were working in Canada in film. I'm a huge fan internationally of Maryse Alberti, who shot The Wrestler, and so she was another person that was sort of outside of Canada on my radar. She was doing documentaries and French art films. The film business is a very demanding business, and I think that women are completely up to every challenge that it throws at you. But the one single factor that I think may keep some women from being successful in their career is the pure hours, the pure daily hours. If you're shooting a TV series and you're working for 4 months for 12 to 14 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week, you know, it's pretty darn hard to have 2 kids at home, you know. I'm not saying just children, but other life things that you want to do, spend time with your family, do other things as well as cinematography. I think that the dedication that's involved is massive, and you have to love it or you would just give up. But I do think that the structure, it's a very sort of hierarchical structure, the way that the unions are set up, the way that business production is set up. If you're the only person in your household and you have to, you know, just deal with the everyday things with no safety net to sort of help you out with those incredible barrage of hours when you're on a show, it can be quite difficult. The advice that I wish that I had been given when I was first starting out was to look around more to the people that I was working with, the people around me. It was I'm so grateful to all the people that helped me out, and sometimes the people that were helping me I didn't thank enough, and sometimes the people that the production assistants who became famous directors I never talked to, and I could have had an opportunity to meet them and just speak with them about art or whatever. I think that really you need to look at all the people that are around you. Some people are helping you, some people aren't, but it's always surprising who is out there to listen to you, to give you a connection to a job, to do whatever. I think I was a little bit too timid to deal and look around more than just the 3 people I was talking to, and look at the whole scene of the producers, the actors, everyone around the set. I am a good cinematographer because of my eye and because of what I'm able to produce visually. I love that movies work in time. I love moving the camera, and I love the idea of lighting within movement, within time, as opposed to doing a still photography, which is a beautiful art form, but I enjoy moving that camera around in space and seeing the light change. I also think on a very practical level, my sense of patience with artistic people helps me a lot. I've had a lot of aha moments. I mean, they come from being like these very little tiny things. I'll never forget getting an operating job when I was first starting out in the union, and I believe it was Alvain Kuntz who told me this. He said, always look on every take, always look at a different spot in the frame when you're shooting, and you'll learn so much. It was the best advice I was given at that time. I just shot a feature film, which was an amazing experience, and the directors were the Soska sisters, who are they write for Marvel. They wrote Black Widow, and we remade Rabbit, David Cronenberg's Rabbit. They're twins. They direct together, and everybody, when I say, oh, I worked with Soskas and they were twins, people kind of go, oh wow, well that must have been tricky, you know, two directors, right? It was fantastic. It was like having 3 brains, like Jen had 1 brain, Sylv had 1 brain, and the 2 of them talking together made a 3rd brain. And it was like having 3 more people knowing what they wanted to do. And in a way, that time, it was like they tripled the time, the prep time of the director. And that increase in time to work on the project opened them up to be incredibly creative. Kind of had this moment where I realized I was working with people who trusted me. I totally trusted them. I loved their creative process. It was just like a win. We were all just working on the work. And there was not so much crap about the business aspect of it. I mean, although there was, as there always is on a film, but we were able to somehow, in our work method, we were able to just deal very, very much with the creative. And I was totally in heaven. I was like, oh, this is worth it for all the less good jobs that I've had, you know. I think the world has changed so much in the 30 years that I've been doing this that has been for the good and also for the bad. When I very first started out, I thought, here's this, you know, I'm seeing these few women Canadian cinematographers, these few American women cinematographers, and I'm gonna go and, as a feminist, I'm gonna forge forward here and just not be bothered with all the noise of the doubt and the not being part of the club, not being, having the same opportunities as the men were at that time. And I thought, you know, in 10 years, it's all going to be different. Here we all are working. Well, 10 years later, nothing really had changed. There were a lot of second camera assistants in the IA 667. There weren't that many that were given the opportunity to step up to be an operator or step up to be a DP. I was very, very lucky. The one biggest change, I was very proud to get to work on my last show with a woman Steadicam operator from Vancouver, Tamara Jones, and Paula Timchuk, who I have known for years, and she's a fabulous camera operator. And both of these gals have been working for years without having kind of the same lift-up opportunity to step up to those roles. And Paula was a focus puller for years, way too many than she should have been, in my opinion. And so it was such a pleasure that I got to pick the two best people for the job that I was doing to work with me. And it was nothing to do with affirmative action. It was nothing to do with having them have a special opportunity. They were just the best gals. And so they were both available. I was so pleased to get to work with them. A lot of changes that I would still like to see in the industry. I think that there is almost a false veil of equity at this point in time. While the voice is out there saying, Me Too, or women should have these opportunities, you know, there are women who I've known who've been in my union working as focus pullers for years and years and years who've never been offered the opportunity to step up to be an operator. For example, that's just one example. I think what has to happen now is that everyone in the world has to contribute to this equality. And it's not just for women, it's for everyone. And men have to participate, the governments have to participate, the producers and organizations have to participate. We still only have 20 cinematographers in the Canadian Society of Cinematographers. There's very few women DPs in the IATSE camera locals that are ever increasing. It's so much better than it was 10 years ago, but it's still a very small percentage. So I think we've got a lot of work still to do, and I think there's kind of a sea change happening now that might open the door to do that, I hope. I am a huge fan of two genres, music and horror. So I'm hoping I can continue to work in those genres. They don't really collide. It's kind of two separate categories, but it's so difficult to say a name or two. I mean, there's so many amazing people that I would love to work with. I mean, obviously, in my dream of dreams, I'd love to shoot a film for Christopher Nolan or Guillermo del Toro. Of course, I'd love to work with somebody like Frances McDormand. I adore her. I mean, there's so many amazing actors. Louise Guzman. I mean, there's all these amazing actors that I see that I think I would really love to work with them. I am in awe of so many artists. Maybe I'd like to do a film with Banksy. It's a very complicated world, film production. There are so many levels of business that are trickled down to where you are when you are just doing your work. So I think understanding how the hierarchy of your position works, whether you're on a television series or a feature film or a music video, there's all these different hierarchies. So it's good to reach out to understand, you know, how the producer's role works in relation to you, how the production manager's role works in relation to you, because you're ordering equipment, you're doing all of this business aspect of it. But then the biggest true advice I would give would be to study art, to study photography. The best thing I did when I was starting out was I would go see a movie, I would go to the bookstore, and I would buy the issue of American Cinematographer that had the article about the movie, and I would read how the lights were used or where they did their driving shots or whatever. And that was like my own private little film school. I think that was a huge part of what helped me kind of think of new things that nobody was ever telling me how to do. I was reading them, you know, based on all these other cinematographers' experience. It was being conveyed in the way that the CSC magazine does. You know, we learn each other's tricks. It's a very new time for women in the field of cinematography right now, and I'm so proud to see so many younger women actually shooting amazing, beautiful work. And I just pray that people get the opportunity to show the work because of the work.